How we doing, folks? Your host Moose here on the Pitt Panthers Football Network as you welcome you back to our Season 7, Week 5 Around the NCAA Recap Show. Your Pitt Panthers coming off a 31-15 victory over the Virginia Cavaliers in a rainy, wet affair in Charlottesville, Virginia. Of course, Virginia put up some good passing yards. Keith Hughes a night stay at the office, but Ceno Rogers' 3-touchdown affair allowed the Panthers to come away with the victory, bookended by two 14-point quarters in the first and the fourth to kind of pull away there late on. Ceno Rogers with a pair of touchdowns there. Virginia tried to battle back at the end, but despite getting a lot of yardage, one touchdown or so, they couldn't really get anything else going on. And that's kind of the big thing you could take away from this game for the Panthers. Again, turnovers were the issue yet again. 3 turnovers, 2 fumbles lost, and a pick. Virginia just with that single, but the Pitt defense 3 of 13 as far as allowing Virginia to convert on third down. So really nice performance by the Pitt defense there. Way to stand up. And the rushing attack, fantastic performance. 267 yards on the ground for the Panthers. That's really what they leaned on because, in a game like this where it's tough to throw the football, the weather is really a hindrance in that effect. You saw it with Kirk. The ball was kind of all over the shop on him. And the Panthers just decided, we're going to lean on the rushing attack. Davion Reynolds, 155 yards and a touchdown. Ceno Rogers added a touchdown on a little bit of a gadget, option, his little jet sweep plays and things like that. Kirk was able to run to get himself out of trouble. We saw a little bit more Daenerys Carter in this game as well. 41 yards on 8 carries for the junior there as well. So nice little variety for the Panthers. Obviously, Rogers and Reynolds each had a fumble. The Panthers lost those in the game, but, those are part and parcel of playing in this type of football affair. Rogers, 6 more catches, 58 yards, and a pair of touchdowns as well. Really nice game for him. And you can see we didn't have a ton of deep balls going. Klump had 1 catch for 24 yards. Mitchell had a 21-yarder. Rogers a 28-yarder. Otherwise, not much beyond 20 yards in this game because we just didn't really have the opportunity to do that. We didn't need to with how well the running game was working in this particular matchup. Jalen Hills continued his nice performance, a pair of sacks for him. Malachi Bordeaux making an impact as well with a sack. He's been really good from that defensive tackle position. Doesn't matter if he's not, racking up tons of tackles or tons of sacks every game, but he usually comes away with a sack, a few tackles, couple tackles for a loss. Really impactful for our defensive captain, Malachi Bordeaux. I should say one of our defensive captains, Malachi Bordeaux. We, of course, had Granger had a really nice game as well. I thought some really good play from Jordan Murphy Jr. as well. So a lot of impact there. Fumble recovery for Youngling that was really nice on the fumble that was forced. So really solid game all around. Defense, of course, the pass defense, it's one of those things your pass defense gets a little bit soft as the game goes on, and we saw the speed from DeAnthony Hamilton as well. But that's the thing we know. So we gave up 336 yards, which looks bad when you talk about it on paper. When you look at it in the course of the game layout, we were up 31 to what the final was 15. Was it 31-9 because they just had a bunch of field goals at that point. So they got a late touchdown, went for 2, didn't get it. I mean, it's one of those things where you gave up a lot of passing yards, but really that was because they had to pass late on in the game. They're trying to maybe make a comeback to some level. I think they could have leaned on Harmon a little bit more rushing the football, but we did a good job setting him down, stuffing him a bit, and he was injured out for about a quarter and a half as well, so it kind of limited his opportunities with the ball and probably put them behind the 8 ball a little bit. But that's why the passing game looks so strong for them, and that's why they're going to have so many yards, even though it's really garbage time yards at that point because we're getting a little bit soft with the coverage, giving them a lot more room in the game and things of that nature. So I wouldn't worry about that in terms of a yardage standpoint. I think from a performance standpoint, we did all we needed to do. A couple of nice breakups when needed. Granger played well, I thought, from the safety position, as he always has seemed to do. Jordan Murphy Jr. in that dime position. He's been getting a lot of game time in those 4 cornerback sets that we do like to run, and I think he's really acquitted himself really well. He can do a good job. He reminds me a lot of Kaiser Artist Scott, DeMar Hamlin, when we had him way back when. Those really athletic guys, corners that you can stick in the slot early on in their career, but then eventually they have the length, they have the speed, they have the cover ability that he's going to be able to turn into a very good outside cover corner at some point. I think that's where he can be really effective, and I think he's going to make a big impact for us going forward in the future, especially because when you look at the Panthers corners right now, we have Whaley and we have Damian Vector both as juniors, and then Brian Youngling right alongside them as a redshirt sophomore. So we're going to have 1 year left of two of those guys. Youngling could elect to stay for an extra year, but honestly, he's going to be such a high overall more than likely. I could see him leaving for the NFL draft as well, especially with how talented he's been in a few years. So we could lose three corners all in one swoop, and then Jordan Murphy Jr. is your number one corner right off the bat. So I think that could be really, really interesting to see how that's going to shake out as far as the season goes on. But looking around the country, around the ACC, Florida State with a big win, and what you'll notice here is Washington had to come in for them at quarterback. That means Parks had to leave with an injury, the quarterback that played, and he may have been out for the whole game for all I know. Didn't check up on that before the game, but without having him available, Washington had to come and step up, and he's a 94 overall sophomore that was their backup because they had a 94 overall senior in Shane Parks, and so that's a big change for them. Parks didn't have a particularly great game in the victory that we had against Florida State, so maybe that's the switch they're going to need moving forward. Virginia Tech had a late big win as well, and a big, huge game for Syracuse, led by Cornell Washington, a really, really talented quarterback that they have as well. A couple college game day games of the week. You can see Arkansas 49-38 over Texas A&M, absolute scoring affair, 28 points in the fourth quarter for the Razorbacks, come away with the victory there. Oklahoma put the screws to Notre Dame, took them out behind the woodshed and just beat them senseless, 38-10. Taylor Savage and the Sooners, the defending national champions, off to a fantastic start this season, 4-0 already. South Carolina with the win over Auburn in a ranked affair. Auburn falls to 3 losses already, which is a bit surprising. They got Antonio Gaither, the young quarterback, really, really strong, and he's had a tough start to the season so far. WVU loses, so our big win over them doesn't look as particularly impressive when they're now 1-4. LSU goes to 4-0 with a big win over Tennessee, who gave us a really, really tough game earlier this year. So we're seeing a lot of the teams that we matched up with already losing here this week. West Virginia, Tennessee included in that one. Florida State did win, so that helps us out as far as rankings and strength of schedule are concerned. Maryland with a big win over Michigan State. Rutgers with an upset win over Michigan, late touchdown with 21 seconds left for the Scarlet Knights to get the huge victory in the Big House, I believe, as well. So they go right into Ann Arbor and knock off the undefeated Wolverines. Incredible turn of events there as Rutgers gets a big conference win, maybe a signature win for them to try and get that program moving forward. USC with a big win. Ohio State blows out Wisconsin, just fallen to 1-3 now, so maybe hot seat for Paul Chryst at the helm of the Badgers after a tough start in that regard. Baylor, big win over previously undefeated Texas here. Quentin Jackson at quarterback having a great game there for Baylor. You can see for Texas, Giovanni Perry was clearly in the game as well, so not sure if they had some injuries that they were dealing with on the Longhorn sideline. Bama 34-13 over Ole Miss, who of course made the national championship game last season. Not going to make a return trip there more than likely for Ole Miss, but Alabama showing off the depth of talent that they have. Around the country here, we can see freshman Garrett Ford for Louisiana Tech with a huge game. Sack, forced a fumble, recovered that fumble. 6 tackles, 3 for a loss in their victory over UAB. And then Tremaine Humphrey, senior tailback for Tulane, 181 yards on the ground and 4 touchdowns as they blew out Navy 56-10. And there we see Mike Washington, the quarterback for the Seminoles, 305 yards, 4 touchdowns in the victory over Boston College. So maybe a changing of the guard for the Seminoles. Maybe it's the youth movement now, depending on how long that injury for Parks is. And then for the Panthers, Jalen Hills, the redshirt junior defensive end, couple of sacks, forced a fumble that Youngling recovered. That's going to earn him ACC Defensive Player of the Week honors. So another one, as we had Bordeaux win just 2 weeks ago as well. So good for some Panthers getting some ACC recognition. Chase Johnson, tailback for Texas A&M, currently leading the Heisman race. D.D. Harris, the quarterback, is in there. You can see Thomas, quarterback for Oklahoma State, in there as well. Robert Fry, tailback for Cal. And Darion Williams Jr., I think he's a dark horse to win it. He gets about 200 yards every game for Alabama on the ground. He's unbelievable. Jonathan Thomas, nice game there in the victory over WVU. But Darion Williams Jr. is a guy to watch, I think. Only 96 yards on the ground this game, 62 yards through the air receiving. But he is unbelievable. Derrick Henry clone, you would honestly argue, and he's fantastic. I could see him becoming the Heisman winner this season as the season progresses. Around the country right now, Oklahoma and Alabama looking like the clear top two teams, I think, right now. Ohio State's been very good, but I will say their star power maybe doesn't equal some of those other teams. D.D. Harris, quarterback, is good, but I don't know what he can lead them to. LSU, fantastic. Kellen Coley at quarterback. Their receiving core is incredible. Penn State with Marquez Gordon at quarterback, certainly sitting at number 5 right now. And Oklahoma State with their quarterback we just saw, and then Antoine Byrne-Horton at halfback. All teams that I think are very impressive and are going to be in the mix all season long, more than likely, for the national championship in the college football playoff picture. You got some undefeateds a little bit further down the list. Maryland's 4-0, Washington's 5-0. Are those teams that we should watch for? Washington, you remember, was it season 2, I want to say, 2 or 3? No, I guess 3 it was, of this dynasty. We went to the college football playoff and lost to Washington, who ended up losing in the national championship game in that particular year. But Washington's knocked us out in the college football playoff semis. Ohio State knocked us out in the semis. And then, of course, we won in the semis against WVU and lost to Alabama in the national championship game. That was in season 5, our third straight trip to the playoff. And then last year, of course, a little bit of a down year, going 9-4. But all together, or 8-5, 9-4, 8-5. Somebody catch me up in the comments. It's been a little bit while since we've played that season. I apologize for the delay, as always, but unbelievable to come back. We're 5-0. That we're another team that we're not even in the rankings yet, and yet we sit here at 5-0. I think a little bit underrated because of the down year we had and how sloppy we looked in the first couple games of this season. But I think we're really starting to put things together in this matchup in an ACC conference where everybody's been scathed already. Nobody's coming out unscathed from any matchups. I think, if we can keep putting these contests together, who knows how it's going to go here. A game against Duke this week for your Panthers. We're going to see some other big games around the ACC. Virginia Tech, North Carolina is a great matchup. Syracuse, Clemson, I think is going to be a fantastic showdown. Washington, the quarterback for Syracuse, versus a Clemson team with Will Alford. A lot of talented players there that, really should be a team that we should be expecting to face probably in the ACC championship game. Knock on wood, should we make it there. That's a long way to go in this season, but that's a team to watch out for, so it'll be interesting to see who comes out with a win in that game. Some big games around the country right now. Number 5, Penn State taking on a strong Indiana team that's got 43 points per game as it stands right now. That should be a great matchup there. Virginia Tech, UNC, like we already mentioned. Virginia Tech 4-1 right now. They, of course, went to the college football playoff last season with Travis Huff at quarterback. Really, really good player, but he's gone now. So they're leaning on the likes of Eddie Henderson at halfback and things of that nature. Cincinnati, big team to keep an eye on. They're 2-0 right now in the top 10, and their quarterback is, of course, our transfer, A.C. Reese, who lost his starting job to C.J. Kirk, of course, last season in about the third game. Never was able to gain it back. Fans remember him, of course, from season 5 when we did go to the college football playoff national championship game. He had to come in for the injured Kenny Pickett and unfortunately was not able to lead us to championship victory there. But definitely a polarizing name in Pitt Panthers football history, and one that we'll have to see how he fares for Cincinnati this season. Definitely one that Panthers fans will keep one eye on for sure. Tennessee versus Georgia, great matchup here. Tennessee we know because we played them and have faced them in the last 2 years. Georgia with Carter Ford at quarterback, really, really talented team that always seems to underachieve. Kirby Smart hoping to turn that program around. We'll see how they can do their 2-2 as it stands right now. Maryland at 4-0 taking on Florida State, non-conference matchup, but really, really interesting because you got Washington at quarterback more than likely for Florida State, who's really, really supremely talented against a Maryland team that's surprising everybody starting off the season at 4-0. So a lot of great matchups on the docket for this weekend. Houston versus Iowa State as well. Michael Robinson, the quarterback for Iowa State's fantastic, but Houston off to a really good start, really impressive offensive attack, 282 yards through the air passing, number 6 in the country in scoring offense. Could they have another big day and come away with a victory, knocking Iowa State from the ranks of the unbeatens? Another unbeaten in Cal, taking on a solid Washington State team. So this is where, when you get into conference play, some of those unbeatens are really going to have to test their mettle and see how they do moving forward. Now, for your Panthers, they're also unbeaten and need to test their mettle against a Duke team that is tough, but more defensively. That's going to be the real question. They've done a nice job defensively, number 16 rated defense in total yardage, especially against the pass. They're very, very impressive against the pass, and the Panthers have been wildly inconsistent passing the football. CJ Kirk some games goes out there and throws for 300 plus. Then last game against Virginia, we see him throw for 160, 170 yards. So it'll be very interesting to see how that goes against a fairly stout Duke defense, but a Duke offense that's really been maligned and really struggled. I think that's going to be an area where your Pitt defense is going to have a field day with them, I would think. The only issue to watch out for, Cameron Taylor-Bell, their quarterback, very solid player. He could surprise some folks, but the Duke defensive side of the football is where the Panthers are really going to have to pay attention. Tommy Carter II is an NFL draft pick. This guy's going to go in the first or second round. He is incredible. 2 interceptions already on the season, and he is a fantastic player to watch out for as the game progresses and as the season progresses for Duke. Really, really good. We've talked about him previously. Fantastic player. Thompson Bell, we can see under 50% passing for the season, 7 TDs, 3 interceptions, though. And when we look at Duke's schedule and their results as it's gone, FCS win to start the campaign. Then they beat Memphis. They beat Boston College in a pretty tight affair where Cameron Bell had a really nice game. But then they're coming off a blowout loss to an undefeated Troy team. But 42-13, they got destroyed at home against Troy. And now they'll have the Pitt Panthers come into their friendly confines to see if they can get a win. But like I mentioned, Tommy Carter is the star of this defense. 93 overall, really, really talented player. They do have some really nice pieces. Simon at tight end's a great weapon for their quarterback, Thompson Bell, but he's just young. He's very young. I think he's a sophomore, if I remember correctly. So a lot of inexperience for the guy that is redshirt freshman. So sophomore in school, but freshman in football eligibility. Huge body, not a lot of speed, not a lot of mobility, though. You can see a couple of their backups, Fields with a lot of mobility, Gavin Moss there as well, and Rashawn Folks. So, they have some depth at quarterback, but not a lot of overall talent. But Thompson Bell, a freshman at 79 overall, is nothing to sniff at. He's a guy that this may not be the year for him, but it's a great developmental year. And as a sophomore and as a junior, he could be somebody to really watch out for as a passer. So they'll likely have to lean on the likes of Marcus Williams and Stephon Young running the football. Decent players, again, but that's all you're going to say about them. They're nice. They're nice pieces, but they're guys that would be number 2, number 3 options on teams like Pitt, and they have to be the number 1 options on a team like Duke. And so that's the big difference that you're going to see in the teams the Panthers are going to take on here. At receiver, again, James Hood's okay. Smith is okay. Tyson's got a lot of speed from the slot. He's probably the guy to watch out for just because in that slot position he's going to run a lot of slants, a lot of crossers, things of that nature. Panthers will need to stay on him. Hopefully they'll have the likes of Youngling and Murphy Jr. matched up on him, but if he can get up against a linebacker or a safety, that's where they can cause a problem. Adam Simon at tight ends, he's a senior, really, really solid, but do they have the quarterback to get the ball to him? That's the real question, to be able to find Simon. Offensively on the line, they're okay. Walton is solid at 84 overall. Thomas, 84 overall. They're not bad, but I think it's going to be the availability for the likes of Malachi Bordeaux and such to feast on them is going to be available. Clint Richardson, really good tackle. Poole, as a sophomore in 81, solid. Michael Bain. Again, they don't have any really weak links, like no 70 overalls in that line, but I think the way that our line has played this year, Mac McAlevey, Malachi Bordeaux, Ryan Jacobs, and of course Jalen Hills leading the way in sacks. I think we're really, really talented, and we're going to get after them for sure, even with 4-man pressure. Then if you get the likes of a Darion Mitchell coming off the edge, we know he's a great speed rusher off the outside, brings a lot of power, big hitter. I think he can make a real impact. We haven't seen a lot of Talik Bridges. I've been a little underwhelmed with him this season. I'm hoping that maybe he can start making an impact, and this could be the game to do it. Duke defensively, not a lot of pressure, I don't think, so I don't expect Kirk to be running for his life in this game, but they do have good linebackers. Stephen Muhammad is fantastic. Kawika White's going to be a really nice player. He's a freshman right now, but Muhammad is unbelievable. He's a real player to watch here. Redshirt sophomore, 86 overall already. Demetrius Raymond at outside linebacker is okay as well. So they have some pieces, and then their secondary is where they're actually probably the most proficient. We've talked about how their pass defense is pretty solid. Matt McDonald, 94 speed, really underrated, I think, as a player. So he's one to watch out for 100%. And then, of course, the likes of Carter at safety is really, really good. Definitely somebody that's going to make a play on the football. Ashton Griffin as a junior is okay at the free safety position, but they got two really good strong safeties, so you're going to see Hill line up all over the field. Courtney Hill is going to be used at strong safety. They're going to use him at corner. He may even see some time at the middle linebacker position because he's got decent size and can get down there and make a hit. I think he's going to be an under-the-radar player for them. So Carter and Hill both very, very impactful potentially for the Blue Devils on the defensive side of the football. So looking at this Duke team, it's one that I don't think we expect the Panthers to have trouble with, but you never know how the game will play out. It's been fairly up and down, topsy-turvy season for the Panthers so far, and so it's going to make it very interesting moving forward. So let me know in the comments what you think is going to happen in this game for the Panthers. Who comes out on top? What's the final score? How do things shake out? And then just a little recruiting update for you guys, a little sneak peek. We got the likes of Jeremy Childress, defensive end here. We're throwing some points out. We're going to schedule a visit for him. Pretty much projected, I think we're going to take him. Nobody else is projected to make the cut line, but a guy we're heavily looking at here. We also have Joe Harris, a center that we're looking at that's available for a visit. Jeff Houston, corner, and Ronnie Richard, a tailback, guys that we may see. And we'll bring up the guys that are on the visit as the season progresses on, but we're taking a look at them right now. So as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it week in and week out. Really having a great time getting back into this and enjoying this Dynasty with you guys. 7 seasons is incredible, and hope to continue and see how the Panthers will fare this season. So as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Take care. Hail to Pitt. We'll see you very soon. Bye-bye.